I was dismissed for my age. At times, even say like 10, 11 years old. What would you know? You're only a kid. When in fact, you'd be surprised what I would know at 10 or 11 when I was doing a bit more of that. I see mum day in, day out,
You know the signs.
I know the signs.
How are you going today, John?
Yeah, not too bad.
Nice to meet you, John.
Nice to meet you too, Jim.
So you're caring for a loved one who's living with dementia, but you've got almost an entire lifetime of practice under your belt. Do you remember the first time you were in the role of carer? How old were you?
I started caring at the age of 5.
And do you remember back that far, or is this just what you've been told?
I can't quite remember back that far, but it's just something that, I've been told, but I can base it on with circumstances and events that have happened.
And do you know what it was you were doing in those initial stages? What were you stepping in to help out with?
Yeah, so I was starting to help out care for my mother who has mental health issues, and some of the things that I was doing in those early years, about 5 years old, was being there to provide a little bit of emotional support, and then also doing some light household, duties that I could at 5 or 6, by doing a little bit of washing up. I couldn't quite reach the sink, so I had like a little step stool to get up there and wash up and dry up.
Was it scary for you at times with your mum?
Yeah, there were a few times that it was scary, because the panic attacks, they can vary in the severity as well and how long they last for. And then also, seeing mum go into an inpatient unit as well. That the first time she was in there, that was quite scary, even visiting there as well.
And because your dad was working shifts, right,
Yeah.
at that time. So I imagine in some of these circumstances, it would have been you alone.
It's a lot of responsibility as well,
Yeah.
for you to call. When do you call an ambulance, or when do you it must have been quite hard to recognise when do you step up?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, so you're right, Hamish. Yeah, there were times when, Dad was doing shift work. So either he'll be at work or he'll be sleeping. So, be up to me to try and be there. There's just something, it's hard to describe, but there was something to know when to call an ambulance and when not to call an ambulance. It was just something, you can't really learn it from a textbook. You can only learn it through
Lived experience.
lived experience, exactly.
Given that you are young still, but you were young doing all of
Yeah.
this, but learning to advocate, did you find that there were circumstances where people dismissed you or ignored you because they looked at you as a child?
Yeah, I was dismissed for my age. At times, even say like 10, 11 years old. Kind of, what would you know?
Yeah.
You're only a kid. When in fact, you'd be surprised what I would know at 10 or 11 when I was doing a bit more of that. I see mum day in, day out,
You know the signs.
I know the signs. It wasn't easy. It felt like, I'd get more. I feel a lot better talking to a brick wall than some health professionals.
It
But
would have been highly frustrating, wouldn't it? When you really do know your stuff and you're so young, you've got a wise head on your shoulders.
yep, very, very frustrating. I got angry as well a few times. Not there in the appointment, but afterwards, going, why won't you just listen to me? Just listen. If that's the only thing that you do is listen, then do that.
And so also for the past few years, you've not only been caring for your mum, but you're also now caring for your grandmother, who you call Nonna. So tell us a bit about your Nonna.
Yeah, so Nonna's moved up from Sydney to Central West New South Wales, and she's currently in a nursing home, and she's got Parkinson's and dementia.
What was that like, the realisation that your grandmother was going to need help and support as well?
It was something that was on the cards, but it isn't on the cards until it hits home, and you need to make those arrangements and look at selling the house and doing all that to get it to move. But yeah, as you can see, it's a bit emotional, to talk about it. So, no, it was, what wasn't easy because, seeing her doing everything that she was doing, us going to Sydney, her doing the washing, doing the laundry, cooking meals, doing the traditional nonna things that you would expect from an Italian grandmother, to now to not doing anything and just going downhill quite quickly.
I imagine that this would have been particularly hard from the perspective of, with your mom facing her own struggles with anxiety and depression, and that would have been very difficult through your younger years. I have a feeling you would really have lent on your nonna for her strength and support, because not only would she be concerned for your mum, but for you. And so to sort of have those tables turned a little now, where she's the strong one of the family, that must be really hard to handle for you, to see her not herself and not that supportive strength behind you. How's that been?
Yeah, 100%. As you were talking about that, I can think of a few times when Nonna has come up to Central West New South Wales to help care for Mum, because, she was seeing how much I was doing, but also wanting to be there for her daughter. And now she can't do that. And I know that, I can tell that there are times when she wants to help out, but she can't. I can see in the emotional with her as well, because she has opened up to me a few times about, I want to do some cooking, and I want to do some of this, and I want to do some of that. And it's like, how do you say no? How do you say no to Nonna? Yeah, it isn't an easy conversation to have.
I think maybe you're saving a lot of money on fruit at the moment. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so definitely saving a lot of money on fruit. So Nonna's still being Nonna and wanting to make sure, that we're all getting fed. So her way is that when she goes out, she likes to grab some fruit from the fruit shop, as she calls it. And whenever we go visit her, we always have to make sure that we bring a bag or two, because there'll be a diversity range of fruit for us to bring back. So there's been times when we've made some banana bread, I've taken some fruit to work, given some fruit to some neighbours. So yeah, it's good to see that Nonna still hasn't forgotten about being a Nonna and thinking about her family.
Where is she keeping the fruit?
In a secret stash in the drawer.
all over her room. So some could be in drawers. We've purchased a nice fruit bowl for her, so she'll put some in there. Anywhere that she can hide it, so other people don't see it, or even in her basket in her walker.
Okay.
That's such an Italian thing as well, for the Nonna to be feeding you up and making sure you're looked after.
100%.
And obviously Italian was her first language. How's she going with English now? Because obviously some people regress, other terms for it as well, but they might lose some of those capacities.
Yeah, so she is going more into speaking Italian. So another role that I do provide for her is being a translator. I might not speak fluent Italian, but I speak enough to get by. So yeah, so she is losing her English and reverting back to her first language, Italian.
Is that distressing for her if people can't understand her, presumably in the central west of New South Wales, not necessarily a huge number of Italian speakers?
Does she get frustrated?
Yeah, she definitely does get frustrated when she wants to try and ask for something or talk about something and there is that language barrier. I know the nursing home at times have gone to good old Google Translate at times to try and help out, but there have been times when, I have needed to go to the nursing home and just be that translator. It might be during the weekly GP appointment, or if the nurses are having difficulty understanding or talking to do a quick trip up there and try and help out.
When I think of Italians, I picture like the huge families around the dinner table and loads of cousins and aunties and uncles are all there to sort of support and help you. How does that compare with your own experience?
Yeah, I'm the complete opposite of that. We come from a small family. Yeah, so mum, dad, myself, and my cousin are the main core people. We do have some extended families, but yeah, not from a big
Yeah.
traditional Italian family where people help out and we can call people, but oh hey, I need a break. Can you come and help out? While I go away for a couple of days or the weekend.
You've obviously been a carer for most of your life now. I wonder how you've changed as a carer during those years because, as you've said, you were helping out your mum who had panic attacks and anxiety, and then you've started looking after your nonna. But you've also grown. You've finished school. You're studying now. How's it changed your approach?
Yeah, so being a carer shaped my career. So my first job was a carer peer worker, and I was the first carer peer worker to be employed by that organisation, and it shaped the courses that I study as well. So I was doing my certificate in community services. Now I'm doing my diploma in counselling, and it's definitely enhanced. Knowing that enhanced my knowledge that there's no Brady Bunch family, as I like to call. There's no perfect family.
Absolutely not. There is no such thing.
Exactly. Every family has something going on behind closed doors. And you just don't know what people are going through that day. So it's definitely, shaped me. I've become very empathetic, to people, to members of our society. So
Because some people would run the other way.
yeah, exactly.
Some people would say, you know what, I have had enough of this.
Exactly.
It actually drew you in, really. It gave you such a foundation, and you've took that on in your career path.
Oh, 100%. And it's also, I've been able to raise awareness of young carers and also carers, in the workplace to consider carers as well because, support workers aren't always there all the time. Emergencies can happen and it's good for carers to be kept up to date, obviously with the consent of that person, but to be kept up to date with appointments or even generally on how the person's going.
There might be other young carers listening to this and maybe feeling a bit isolated, maybe a bit angry about the circumstances they're in. What would you say to them?
They're all normal emotions to be going through because everyone's circumstances are different, whether you're the primary carer or whether you're a secondary carer, the relationship that you have. But there is support available, as for an example, that young carer dementia support group, but it's also important to reach out, through Carer Gateway or other services in your local area. Yeah, do not think that you're alone in this journey. And there are so many positive things that can arise from being a carer, like it shaped my career path, but also it doesn't define you. You can still do things your age. I've been able to go away with friends and have a breakaway and be a kid. I've been able to study. I've been able to do things that, people might think, oh, you're caring for someone. You can't do that. You won't be able to do that. But hey, look, here I am now. I'm recording a podcast in a suburb that I've never been to in my life. So there's many things, you can go into policy or advocacy work as well, if that's your passion, research as well. I know a lot of young carers that have gone down that path.
We've heard about how it's shaped your career and some choices you've made. What about how being a carer has shaped you as a person?
It's given me independence, but also it's knowing that mum and dad have been there. Well, mum and nonna, have been there for me. Now it's my turn to give and show them the care and love as well. It's also enhanced my knowledge around things as well, like through the medical system, knowing how to advocate for people and advocating for myself as well, knowing my rights as a carer as well. And it's just shaped me for who I am. I love it. I enjoy it. I wouldn't change anything for the world, even though I'm caring for 2 people. If somebody said, John, here's $1 million and forget about things, I'll say, no, keep your money.
You're happy the way it is.
I'm happy with what I'm doing.
John, thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Hold the Moment is a podcast from Dementia Australia, produced by Deadset Studios.